Theo's heart pounded as he sat in the front pew of the old wooden church in rural Ohio, the familiar scent of polished oak and hymn books filling the air. Little did he know that in the next few minutes, his carefully hidden life as a gay man would be exposed to everyone he had ever known, shattering the illusion of the perfect son his family had raised. The Sunday service had started like any other, with Pastor Reynolds leading the opening prayer, his deep voice echoing off the stained glass windows that depicted scenes of biblical sacrifice. Theo, 28 and home for the weekend to please his parents, kept his head bowed, fingers laced tightly in his lap. He had practiced this posture since childhood, blending in, smiling at the right moments, never drawing attention. But then his phone, silenced yet somehow connected to the sound system because he had helped set up the new audio equipment earlier that morning, vibrated once on the pew beside him. The screen lit up just as the prayer ended. A text from Elijah appeared in bold letters on the projector screen for the entire congregation to see. "Miss you already, babe. Can't wait to hold you again tonight. Love you." Gasps rippled through the rows like a wave. Heads turned. Theo froze, blood draining from his face. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His father, sitting 2 seats over his head deacon, rose slowly, eyes wide with a mix of confusion and fury. The silence that followed was deafening. Theo stood on shaky legs, grabbed the phone, and bolted down the aisle, the heavy oak doors slamming behind him as whispers erupted into shouts. He ran until his lungs burned, past the white picket fences and neatly trimmed lawns of Willow Creek, the only home he had ever known. By the time he reached the bus station, tears streamed down his cheeks. He bought a one-way ticket to Chicago with the cash in his wallet, leaving behind his suitcase, his family, and the life he had pretended to live. In the city, Theo crashed on a friend's couch for weeks, replaying that moment every night. The betrayal stung deepest because the phone slip had been his own oversight, but the real wound came from the messages his mother left on voicemail, disappointed, angry, demanding he fix this before the whole town talked. His father never called. Theo got a job at a coffee shop, then enrolled in night classes at the community college, studying psychology and later theology, searching for answers in books instead of prayers. He changed his number, cut contact, and tried to forget the way Elijah's text had felt like both salvation and destruction. Elijah found him 6 months later through mutual friends. Tall, with kind brown eyes and a quiet strength that had always steadied Theo, Elijah worked as a graphic designer in the same city. Their first meeting after the fallout happened in a small park near the lake, leaves crunching underfoot. "I never meant to out you," Elijah said softly, hands in his pockets. "But I'm not sorry we happened." Theo wanted to stay angry, but the warmth in Elijah's voice cracked the walls he had built. They started slow, coffee dates, long walks, late-night talks about everything except the church. Elijah's own family in California had accepted him years ago, but he understood Theo's pain because he had watched friends lose everything to small-town judgment. As months turned into a year, their love grew steady and deep. Theo landed a better job at a nonprofit helping at-risk youth, and Elijah moved in with him. Yet the past lingered. Theo still woke some nights sweating, hearing his father's unspoken rejection. He avoided churches entirely, even when Elijah gently suggested visiting a welcoming one downtown. "Not yet," Theo would whisper, and Elijah never pushed. Their friendship's circle expanded to include Lena, a fierce ally from Theo's college days, and Marcus, a loyal co-worker who became like a brother. But cracks appeared when Marcus, raised in a similar conservative home, learned the full story and started distancing himself with awkward excuses. Theo felt the fracture but told himself it was just growing pains. The call that changed everything came 3 years later. Theo's sister, Sarah, reached out after their mother's health scare. "Dad's retiring from the deacon board," she said quietly over the phone. "The church is looking for a guest speaker for the anniversary service. They want someone local who made it big. I gave them your name." Theo laughed bitterly at first, but something in Sarah's voice, hope mixed with regret, stirred the old ache. He hung up and stared at Elijah across the kitchen table. "What if I go back?" he asked. Elijah smiled, squeezing his hand. "Then we face it together." Theo spent the next months preparing, not as the scared boy who fled, but as a man who had rebuilt himself. He finished a certificate in pastoral counseling and volunteered at a progressive community center. Doubts gnawed at him. Would the congregation see only the scandal? Would his father turn away again? Yet each decision to keep moving forward chipped away at the fear. When the plane ticket arrived in the mail, Theo packed a single bag, kissed Elijah goodbye at the gate, and flew back to Ohio knowing the town that had broken him might now have to listen. The air smelled the same when he landed, fresh-cut grass and distant rain, but Theo was no longer the same man. The drive from the airport to Willow Creek felt shorter than Theo remembered, the familiar cornfields blurring past under a gray sky. He pulled into his parents' driveway at dusk, heart hammering like it had that Sunday 3 years ago. The house looked unchanged. White siding, American flag fluttering on the porch, the same rocking chair where his father used to read the Bible aloud. Sarah met him at the door, hugging him tightly before whispering, "They know you're coming." Mom cried when I told her. Inside, the living room smelled of pot roast and tension. His mother stood by the kitchen counter, eyes red but voice steady as she said, "We've missed you, son." His father sat in his recliner, newspaper open but unread, nodding once without meeting Theo's gaze. No apologies, no questions about Elijah. Just the heavy weight of unspoken history. Theo stayed in his old room that night, staring at the ceiling cracks he had memorized as a teenager while hiding magazines under his mattress. Sleep came in fragments, filled with dreams of the church projector flashing Elijah's words. Morning brought coffee and small talk. Weather, Sarah's new job at the school, anything but the reason he left. When Theo mentioned he had accepted the guest speaker invitation, his father finally spoke. The board approved it. Folks are curious. The word curious hung like a warning. Theo nodded, deciding then that he would not hide anymore. That week, he walked the town streets, nodding at old neighbors who either smiled tightly or crossed to the other side. At the diner, Mrs. Harlan, his childhood Sunday school teacher, gripped her coffee cup and asked, "You here to make amends?" Theo answered calmly, "I'm here to tell the truth." The rumor mill spun faster than ever, but Theo focused on the upcoming service. He met with the current pastor, a kind man named Reverend Ellis who had replaced his father's old mentor. "The church has changed a little since you left," Ellis said over lunch. "Some folks are ready to listen. Others not so much." Theo appreciated the honesty. Elijah arrived by train 2 days before the anniversary, suitcase in hand, and a supportive smile that melted Theo's nerves. They stayed at a small bed-and-breakfast on the edge of town, away from prying eyes. Late that night, lying in the creaky bed, Elijah traced circles on Theo's back and said, "Whatever happened Sunday, I'm proud of you." Theo turned, pulling him close. "I couldn't do this without you." Their bond had survived distance, doubt, and the slow rebuilding of trust after Theo's initial anger. Elijah had sacrificed a promotion to stay in Chicago with Theo during the hardest year. Theo had given up weekend getaways to attend Elijah's family gatherings, learning how acceptance could look different in every home. Marcus called the next morning, voice tight. "Heard you're speaking. Just be careful, man. Some of the old crew aren't happy." The conversation ended awkwardly, the friendship that once felt unbreakable now strained by Marcus's discomfort. Theo hung up feeling the sting of betrayal, not the dramatic kind from movies, but the quiet erosion of someone who chose silence over support. Lena texted encouragement from Chicago, "You've got this. Show them the real you." Sunday arrived with bright autumn sun streaming through the same stained glass windows. The church was fuller than Theo had ever seen it, every pew packed, standing room only in the back. Whispers followed him as he walked to the front, Elijah sitting in the third row for moral support. Theo's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the microphone, but his voice came out steady when he began. 3 years ago, right here in this sanctuary, my life changed in a single moment. Some of you saw it. Some of you judged it. Today, I'm not here to apologize for who I am. I'm here to talk about what love really means. Gasps echoed again, but this time Theo did not run. He spoke of the fear that kept him silent, the pain of family silence, the healing power of honest connection. He shared stories from his nonprofit work, kids who felt lost, just like he once did, and how faith, when stripped of judgment, could lift people instead of breaking them. His father sat rigid in the deacon's seat, face unreadable. His mother dabbed her eyes. When Theo finished, the applause started slow, then built. Not everyone clapped, but many did. Afterward, in the fellowship hall, people approached. Some offered handshakes and quiet thank yous. Others kept distance. Sarah hugged him fiercely. Then his mother stepped forward, voice breaking. I was wrong to push you away. It was not full acceptance, but it was a crack in the wall. His father remained silent, walking out without a word. Theo felt the familiar ache, yet also a new strength. Elijah waited outside, arms open. You did it, he said. Theo nodded, the weight lifting slightly. The return had begun, but the real battle for understanding was just starting. The days after the service blurred into a mix of cautious hope and lingering tension. Theo extended his stay in Willow Creek, renting a small apartment above the hardware store so he could help at the church's youth program part-time. Reverend Ellis had offered him the role after hearing the applause, saying the congregation needed fresh voices. Theo accepted, knowing it meant facing daily reminders of his past while building something new. Elijah returned to Chicago for work, but drove down every weekend, their relationship deepening through the distance. They cooked simple meals together on Friday nights, talking about everything from Elijah's latest design project to Theo's fears that his father would never speak to him again. One evening, Marcus showed up unannounced at the apartment, cap pulled low. Can we talk? He asked, shifting uncomfortably on the doorstep. Theo let him in, pouring coffee neither of them touched. Marcus stared at his hands. I should have stood by you back then. When the rumors hit, I told people it was just a phase. I was scared for my own reputation. The confession hung heavy. Theo felt anger rise. Marcus had been his best friend since Little League, the one who covered for him during secret high school crushes. But he also saw the regret. Friendship isn't supposed to disappear when things get hard, Theo said quietly. Marcus nodded, eyes glistening. I know. I'm trying to do better. They shook hands, but Theo knew the fracture might never fully heal. Some betrayals left scars even forgiveness could not erase. Meanwhile, family dinners at his parents' house became weekly rituals filled with careful conversation. His mother asked about Elijah, calling him that nice young man from Chicago. Small steps. His father attended but spoke mostly to Sarah, avoiding Theo's eyes. The psychological toll weighed on Theo. Nights when doubt whispered that he had returned only to reopen old wounds. Yet each youth group session reminded him why he stayed. Teenagers like 14-year-old Jamie, who confessed quietly after a meeting, I think I might be like you, looked at Theo with hope. Guiding them through their own searches for identity gave Theo purpose he had never found in hiding. A major turning point came during a town council meeting about updating the community center to include an LGBTQ support group. Theo spoke publicly for the first time since his sermon, voice clear as he shared statistics on youth suicide rates and the healing power of acceptance. Opposition was loud. Old deacons, including his father, argued it would divide the town. Theo stood firm, Elijah beside him in the audience. When the vote passed narrowly, Theo felt a surge of victory mixed with exhaustion. His father approached afterward, not with anger but with a single sentence. You've changed. It was not praise, but it was acknowledgement. Theo drove home that night with Elijah's hand in his, realizing growth sometimes arrived in fragments. Elijah faced his own pressure when his company offered a big promotion requiring relocation to New York. I'd turn it down for you, he said one weekend. I serious. Theo refused to let him sacrifice again. We'll make it work. Weekends, video calls, whatever it takes. Their love had already survived worse. The decision tested them, leading to a misunderstanding when Theo misinterpreted Elijah's hesitation as doubt about their future. Harsh words flew one night over the phone, Theo accusing Elijah of wanting an easier life. Elijah hung up hurt. The next day, he drove through a storm to apologize in person, flowers in hand. You're my home, he said simply. They held each other until the rain stopped, the argument strengthening their bond through honest vulnerability. Sarah became Theo's quiet champion, organizing a family picnic where she gently confronted their father about his silence. Theo came back for us, Dad. The least you can do is see him. The afternoon ended without breakthrough, but Theo noticed his father watching him with something softer than before. Small-town life moved slowly. Yet Theo felt himself growing roots again, not the fearful ones of his youth, but ones grounded in truth. Then came the letter. The regional church conference invited Theo to deliver the keynote at their annual gathering in Columbus, 2 months away. The topic, Faith Without Fear. Theo accepted, knowing it would put him on a larger stage. Preparation consumed him, late nights outlining sermons, Elijah editing slides from Chicago, Lena flying in for a weekend brainstorming session. The psychological weight increased as old doubts resurfaced. What if the larger audience rejected him? What if his words failed the very people he wanted to help? Elijah reminded him nightly, "You already changed one church. You can change more." As the conference date neared, Theo's days filled with a rhythm that felt both exhausting and alive. Mornings at the youth center, afternoons writing, evenings on calls with Elijah. The distance tested them again when Elijah's workload spiked, missing 2 weekends in a row. Theo tried not to let insecurity creep in, but late one night, he texted a vulnerable message. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm asking too much of you." Elijah's reply came instantly with a video call. "You're not. We chose this together." Their conversation lasted hours, reaffirming the commitment that had carried them through the initial outing and beyond. Back in Willow Creek, tensions peaked when an anonymous letter appeared in the church mailbox, calling Theo's presence a danger to our children. Reverend Ellis brought it to him, face grave. "We stand with you," he said. Theo read the words once, then folded the paper calmly. Instead of hiding, he addressed the congregation the following Sunday, not in anger, but with quiet strength. "Fear divides us. Truth brings us together." Attendance actually increased after that, people drawn by the honesty. His mother attended every service now, sitting beside Sarah and occasionally nodding along. His father still sat in the back, listening. The week before the conference, Elijah surprised Theo by arriving early with plane tickets for both of them. "No way I'm letting you face this alone." They drove to Columbus together, stopping at roadside diners and talking about the future, maybe adopting a dog, maybe one day returning permanently to Willow Creek if the town kept changing. The night before the keynote, nerves hit Theo hard. He paced the hotel room, questioning every line of his speech. Elijah sat him down. "Remember the boy who ran out of that church? You're not him anymore. You're the man who came back." Those words anchored Theo. The auditorium was packed with pastors, counselors, and lay leaders from across the Midwest. Theo stepped to the podium under bright lights, heart steady. He opened with the story everyone already knew, the text, the gasps, the flight, but framed it not as shame, but as the beginning of his real faith journey. He spoke of sacrifice, leaving everything to protect his truth, watching friendships fracture, choosing love over comfort. He described the psychological battles, nights of self-doubt, the slow rebuilding of self-worth through service. The audience leaned forward. When he reached the part about his father's silence and his mother's gradual steps, his voice caught. Acceptance isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 small decisions to keep showing up. Applause thundered when he finished. People lined up afterward, sharing their own stories. One older pastor admitted, "I lost my son the same way you almost lost your family. Thank you for giving me courage to call him." Theo felt the weight lift further. Elijah waited backstage, eyes shining with pride. "You were incredible." They celebrated quietly that night, the city lights of Columbus twinkling beyond their window. Returning to Willow Creek brought another surprise. His father was waiting on the porch when Theo pulled up. No grand speech, just a simple invitation. "Come for dinner tomorrow. Bring Elijah." Theo's throat tightened. The dinner was awkward at first, small talk about the conference, Sarah steering conversation, but midway through, his father set down his fork. "I've been wrong. Seeing you up there, it made me realize I almost lost you for good." Tears followed. Not everything mended in one evening, but the door opened. Theo hugged his father for the first time in years, the embrace carrying years of pain and relief. Yet challenges remained. Marcus, still struggling, skipped a planned group outing, sending a text that read, "Need more time." Theo felt the loss, but chose not to chase. Growth meant accepting that some relationships evolved while others faded. Elijah's promotion offer resurfaced, and after long talks they decided he would accept it on the condition they split time between cities. The compromise tested their resilience, but also proved their love could adapt. Winter settled over Willow Creek, bringing shorter days and deeper conversations. Theo balanced his church duties with weekend trips to Chicago, where Elijah's new role kept him busy but happy. Their relationship matured through the rhythm: video calls during the week, quiet weekends cooking or walking the frozen lake. One Friday, Elijah surprised Theo with tickets to a holiday concert in the city. Sitting side by side in the warm theater, Theo realized how far they had come from that first park meeting years ago. The love that began in secrecy now thrived openly, a testament to choices made despite fear. Back home, the youth group grew. Jamie, the quiet teenager, brought two friends one meeting, all seeking guidance. Theo shared pieces of his journey, not the details of pain, but the hope that followed. "You don't have to figure everything out alone," he told them. The sessions became his anchor, reminding him daily that his return served a purpose larger than personal healing. Sarah announced her engagement around Christmas, and the family gathered for a celebration that felt warmer than any in recent memory. His mother baked Elijah's favorite pie without being asked. Small gestures accumulated, each one easing the old wounds. A serious misunderstanding threatened everything in January. Elijah's new boss invited him to a work retreat that overlapped with Theo's important church retreat. Misreading Elijah's excitement as prioritization of career over their plans, Theo snapped during a call. "If work always comes first, maybe we need to rethink this." The words landed heavy. Elijah drove through snow that night to confront him in person. "I turned down the retreat invite the moment I saw the dates," he said, hurt clear in his eyes. "I thought you knew I'd choose us." Theo apologized, realizing his old fear of abandonment had surfaced. They spent the night talking through insecurities born from the original outing and family rejection. The honesty strengthened them, turning potential fracture into deeper commitment. February brought the annual church fundraiser, where Theo organized a panel on community inclusion. His father agreed to moderate, a huge step. During preparation, they worked side by side in the church office for the first time. "I never understood," his father admitted quietly while stapling flyers. "But I'm trying now." The panel went well, drawing diverse speakers and sparking town discussions that continued for weeks. Theo felt proud, not just of the event, but of the man his father was becoming. Marcus reached out again in March, asking to meet at the diner. Over coffee, he said, "I've been seeing a counselor. Your story made me look at my own fears." The conversation lasted hours, old memories resurfacing alongside new understanding. Their friendship did not return to what it was, but it evolved into something honest. Theo appreciated the effort, recognizing that true loyalty sometimes meant growing separately yet remaining connected. Elijah's family visited from California for a long weekend, filling the apartment with laughter and stories. Theo watched Elijah light up around his parents and siblings, grateful for the contrast to his own past. The visit ended with Elijah's mother hugging Theo tightly. "Your family now." The words healed something deep inside him. As spring arrived, Theo received another invitation, this one to speak at a national conference in Washington, D.C. The topic was the same: faith and identity. He hesitated, worried about leaving the youth group and his slowly mending family. Elijah encouraged him. "This is your voice. Use it." With support from Reverend Ellis and his parents, Theo accepted. The preparation months became a period of reflection, writing late into the night while Elijah edited from Chicago. Their shared purpose bound them tighter. The D.C. conference hall buzzed with energy when Theo stepped on stage in late May. Hundreds of leaders filled the seats, cameras rolling for live stream. He spoke with the confidence born from every trial: the public outing, the lonely bus ride, the fractured friendships, the slow family reconciliation, and the steadfast love that never wavered. He described the psychological journey, the moments of doubt that nearly broke him, the decisions to keep showing up despite fear, the consequences that forced him to face himself. "True faith," he said, voice steady, "asks us to love without conditions, starting with ourselves." The standing ovation lasted minutes. Backstage, Elijah waited with open arms. "You changed the room," he whispered. Returning to Willow Creek felt different now. The town had shifted subtly, More rainbow flags at the community center. Youth group attendance doubled. His parents hosted a welcome home dinner where his father raised a glass. To our son, who taught us how to listen. Tears flowed freely. Sarah squeezed Theo's hand across the table. Even Marcus attended, offering a genuine smile. The evening ended with laughter and plans for future gatherings, the kind Theo once believed impossible. Yet life continued to test them. Elijah received an offer to lead a major project in Chicago that would limit visits. After honest discussion, they chose a new path. Theo accepted a full-time counseling role at a larger church in the city, merging his worlds. The move meant leaving Willow Creek behind, but they carried its lessons forward. Packing boxes one evening, Theo paused to look at Elijah. "We made it." Elijah kissed him softly. "We did more than make it. We built something real." The final Sunday in Willow Creek, Theo delivered a farewell sermon. The church was packed again, this time with faces that had grown familiar through struggle and grace. He spoke of sacrifice, not dramatic gestures, but daily choices to choose love over fear. He thanked the congregation for forcing him to grow, his family for learning alongside him, and Elijah for being his constant. When he stepped down, his father stood first in applause, tears in his eyes. The moment felt complete. Months later, settled in their new Chicago apartment overlooking the lake, Theo and Elijah hosted a small gathering. Lena, Sarah, Marcus, and both sets of parents filled the space with stories and warmth. Theo looked around the room, heart full. The journey that began with a single text message had led here, to acceptance earned through truth, love strengthened by challenge, and a voice finally heard. True or false? Acceptance from others can only come after you fully accept yourself first.